Is the United States doomed? Is the future for our children and grandchildren much, much different than what we are experiencing right now? Will other countries or country rule the world, and will it be a much, much different place? We've got some interesting data from a top-notch organization that predicts who will rule the world in the future. Now, we buy gold and silver to provide ourselves, to provide our families with a certain level of security. Will that hold true as a new world order evolves? We're going to talk about that as well in this video. Let's get started right now. Now, it's a little scary when we look at this data, right? We're walking down a path, more like a haunted trail, shining our flashlight way out into the future, and we are seeing major, major change on a world geopolitical level. So we have to get fancy for a few minutes and talk about these statistics, which came to us from the National Bureau of Economic Research. They use data, fiscal data from the International Monetary Fund and demographic data from the United Nations. They looked at 5 key data points which don't paint a pretty picture for the United States of America. They looked at population growth, population aging, productivity catch-up. I don't really know what that means. They also looked at fiscal adjustments and automation. And as of recent times, things have been good for the United States. Actually, the United States, China, and Western Europe all enjoyed dominating about 17% of the world GDP each. Things were rather balanced, but things get a little murky when we look out into the future. Doesn't it feel a little confusing at times? We have no idea who's really going to rule the world in the future, but I know one thing for sure. You rule your time, and you've decided to give me a part of it right now, right here in Ron's basement. I am honored you've decided to join me. If you like to dive a little deeper, right? Go a little deeper than CNN, the Children News Network. You found a new home. You're always welcome here. You can subscribe to my channel right here. I'll put out a new video every day. You got a friend for life. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Positive, negative, share your opinion. We want to learn from you and we want to learn about you. Now let's get back to the video. Under the first scenario, things look rather dire for the United States of America, with China and India becoming the world superpowers by the year 2100. At that point, China would control 27% of the world GDP and India 16%. Under that scenario, both the United States and Western Europe would have slipped all the way down to 10 to 12% control of the world GDP. So China and India would be ruling the world. And we're going to talk about how this would affect precious metals, how precious metals could provide us with a life raft in the future, or a life raft for our children and grandchildren. But next, let's talk about scenario number 2, which was a shocker. Under this scenario, Sub-Saharan Africa, there's a lot of growth going on over there, and the United States wind up sharing the top billing in the year 2100, controlling larger portions of the world GDP. The third and final scenario is just as shocking. It has India on top, controlling 34% of the world GDP, China controlling 22% of the world GDP, and the United States of America, unless Joe Biden continues his economic miracle he's pulling off, we are only going to control less than 10% of the world GDP. Now, these numbers have a lot to do with productivity and productivity gains. And those countries, India and China, have seen massive productivity gains in the last decades. A lot will depend upon their ability to continue increasing productivity at the high rate at which they've been able to do it over the last several decades. Why don't we put our deep thinking caps on and kind of analyze this? Doesn't it seem like the future economic growth in the world, the power structure is shifting towards China, India, possibly even sub-Saharan Africa? And what do we know about those countries? Well, we know that they all love precious metals. The Chinese love gold and silver, right? Only to be topped by our good friends in India who love the precious metals even more. And sub-Saharan Africa is an area ultra rich in precious metals also. So I think, I'd be curious what you think, but it seems like possibly the future under these scenarios continues to look good for the precious metals. And it gets even more interesting when we consider the fact that the BRICs nations, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, these countries that are predicted to do very well in the future, China and India, are part of the BRICs nations. And parts of Africa are considering joining in with the BRICs as well. And have you heard that the BRICS nations are working on their own new reserve currency, which will be backed by real assets, things like silver and gold? And by the way, might as well throw this one in. Don't forget, Vladimir Putin is working on a new central exchange for precious metals, which will be tied in with this new world reserve currency because they want a fair, free market price for the precious metals, silver, gold. Hey, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. But when we look out in the future, when we shine that flashlight out there, it may look a little scary. It may look very scary. However, the future for the precious metals continues to look rather bright. We'll see how it all plays out. And until next time, you be well.